So, Joe, I don't know if you've ever been with a woman and you've done the bull rider. It's my favorite thing. It's when you're, kind of doing it like doggy style. You start off really fast and then slow, and then you kind of start to pace it. And just as she's about to climax, you lean down and you say, "Your sister likes this too." And you try to stay on for another 8 seconds. Thank you.
If only my significant other had a sister.
It would work. All right. You can say anybody. You can say your friend or whatever. That's the whole point. It's just that she's about to. You say that and you try to hang on.
Right.
Good times. I'm Jacques.
I'm Joe.
And this is Carnival Personnel.
Get ready for laughter.
And 3, 2. What I really hate about Trump this week.
Yeah.
So
get ready for 90 minutes of this.
Before we get into that, let's give out the social media, how you can get us. You can get Joe at the OptiGrabber.
No.
At Twitter.
No, you can buy me. You can find me on Twitter at OptiGrabber. You can find Jacques on Twitter at the Jacques4, number 4. And you can find us on that evil media conglomerate. For now, yeah. For now, you can find us on Facebook at Carnival Podcast. Just look it up. Nobody cares.
But the whole point with this is, while Facebook is still around, they're going to be around, but they took a beating this week.
Sure did, and deservedly so.
50 million. Their stock dropped 50 million in one day after that Cambridge Analytic thing.
Yeah, but then they recovered half of that the next day.
Yeah,
Wall Street.
But still, it's because it's not going to go away. This Cambridge Analytic thing is just going to keep dragging on for a little bit, and they want Zuckerberg, and he said he's going to come back to the Senate and talk. So
yeah, he doesn't want to lose favor with the United States government. He wants to play the good guy.
But before we get into all that stuff, today, on a very positive note, it is the Saturday, the 24th, and there are these marches all over the world. Largely organized or largely driven and by the kids from Parkland, but it's a huge national movement. It's an international movement. I am very happy and proud to say my 10 and 7-year-old, were out there in Boston today with their mom. I was playing I broke my ankle in 3 places, so I'm going to sit here at home and watch it.
Yep, typical snowflake watching himself melt in his chair.
My oldest one, the 10-year-old, had a sign that said that he made last night. Only thing I should be afraid of is my grades in school. And then the other one is like, there's no guns in Mario games. He's a Luigi freak. So that was really good. But it was great to see. I don't know if they have a number count yet, but I think they had a couple more people at the march in D.C. than at the inauguration. So, but it's great. And again, it's, there's, because Joe and I are old and it's hard to not be too cynical. It's like, well, what will this really get? And again, like Joe pointed out last week, a couple weeks ago, it was a tie that, on one hand, something got passed in Florida, but on the other hand, the Republicans there can say, well, look, we are for responsible, some of them can say that. But this isn't going away. And that's the encouraging thing that, 2 weeks later, no one's talking about other incidents like this. It had cycled out of the news. This is not cycled out of the news. And there's not been a day where it hasn't been in the news. And now that the march has happened and so many people have been part of it, I don't think it goes away. And this is what you need, and we're still 6 months from elections, but it's great.
I think it still needs a really snappy, punchline worthy hashtag, because Me Too has been around for some time, but now us cis white male assholes have made hashtag Me Too a punchline, and I've noticed that it's just like, oh yeah, now we're belittling something that's supposed to be speaking out against oppressed women, and but because it's become a punchline, right, for assholes. At least it still keeps the conversation going. Like, oh yeah, that's still in the consciousness, even if people are making fun of it or, trying to be witty about it. But the gun conversation will always be. Thankfully, the gun conversation will always be in the news cycle, because there'll be more shootings.
Well, I mean, since Parkland, since that horrible day 6 weeks ago, 73 kids have been shot in school during school hours in 6 weeks. I mean, that is still, you're averaging 10 shootings a week nationwide.
Yeah. Yep, it is awful. But don't worry. Not much will happen within this election cycle.
No, and I think it's great that so many of these kids are 18 or 17. And by November, a lot more of them will be turning the corner. And hopefully their activism, makes their moms and everybody. I was interested because I was, half of me was like, I kind of don't want to tell my parents where the boys are headed with their mom today and just listen to, them. But, and my dad did say, they're going through Roxbury. It's like, yeah.
I love like that. That's what
Yes.
he took away from it.
Yes, they are.
And even if they were, okay, yes, Roxbury is notorious for being a more violent neighborhood, especially during the evening hours. But we're talking about a Saturday morning, throngs of people marching
Thousands
through.
of thousands.
Right. Like, that's what, but, because they're going through Roxbury, then, that's a concern. Wow, we are all fucked.
But then I showed them on TV. Well, I showed them the clip from the last time I had to from the clip the last time the 9-year-old was part of a protest, and that was against the Nazis coming to speak here. It is just fucked. I mean, but it was a fun day. It really was. And so, like I showed in the clip, there was this whole marching band that was, there, like not a high school marching band, but like a jazz band, and it was great. It was fun. It was this big outing type thing. And then when my parents saw it on TV and saw other kids with funny signs or fun signs, and that you see these families out there and stuff like that, they were like, "Oh, well, hit record, and we should look through the crowd to see if we can see them." And it's like, all right, well, don't lose the fact why they're doing it, but. Anyways, I'm just happy that the momentum hasn't stopped yet.
Yeah, keep it going. And then we got they were on the cover of Time Magazine, the Parkland kids. They had that 60 Minutes interview last week, which I don't know how many people. People must have seen that. And you know what? Even if as long as it made the air, it's always going to be online so that you can go watch it. But I think it's great. I think there's. It's something that this generation of kids can sort of latch onto and maybe make a reality in using their voting power when they graduate high school, because it's something that directly affects their culture. It's kids coming out, like going to school, being put into harm's way potentially. Yes, we know that you can get shot anywhere. You can go to concerts and get shot, but you can't ignore the fact that a lot of these school shootings are happening on school property by school students. It's something that does hit home with them, and maybe they can affect change.
And again, it's like, when they started marching in the 60s and stuff like that, things didn't change that day, but it did. It changed over time. But now you add that level of activism and that level of passion behind something with social media and the fact that even if it is amazing the Time covered, it's amazing that they're on 60 Minutes, but truly it's hard to stifle their voices because no one knows how to use social media like a 16-year-old girl. So And I say that in a positive way. If that sounded sarcastic, it was not meant that way for once.
Or a 16-year-old boy.
Or six, right. Why?
Or 16-year-old trans.
Or it does not matter. You are right, Joe. Well, thank you for reining that in. But it's true. They have the outlet, they have the platforms and the outlets that weren't there for other movements like this in the past. So
yeah, we've never seen movements get squashed by totalitarian governments in the past. Like what was it? The Arab Spring.
The Arab Spring.
How did that go?
It had its ebbs and flows.
Are we in the Arab winter right now?
Exactly.
Oh boy.
But on a happier note, I don't know why I've never heard this story before, but I just recently saw Bill Hader, who was talking about Paul McCartney, who he's met a couple times. Oh, now I know why he came on, because he hosted SNL last week, and he did his character, the guy who reviews the club scenes, Stefan. And at the 40th anniversary, party, basically Paul McCartney came up and did remember when you were on Saturday Night Live? Yeah, that was awesome. Stefan is his all-time favorite character, and he's been doing Saturday Night Live himself for 4 decades. How many times has McCartney been on?
Right, he's been doing it for many times. And you know who writes Stefan with Bill Hader? John Mulaney.
Oh, that's his.
Did you see? So you didn't see the last
I
episode.
didn't yet.
John Mulaney came on as Stefan's lawyer / conceptual piss artist.
and I love now who am I blanking? Now he's the talk show host who used to host the
Seth Meyers.
Seth Meyers, like his relationship with Stefan was absolutely fantastic. I absolutely loved that.
Yeah, no, it was a good. I watched it live.
Didn't they get married, or weren't they going to get married?
Well, the last Stefan appearance was him marrying Anderson Cooper.
Oh, okay, all right, and it's great, but it's great that Paul McCartney was fawning over his character.
Yep. So there is some happiness in the world. Now back to sadness, Jacques.
So I've made this point before, and it became clear again. I keep learning the same life lessons over. I do not need to come up with any new jokes. I just need new friends on a regular basis. It is so much easier to make new friends than it is new jokes. And I had I was at this is a 4-letter word. I apologize for the language. I was at a work meeting the other day.
You mean a W word?
Yeah, I dropped the W word. I've taken a short. It's a 4-month gig. There's a new professional arena football team. I think you have to be a professional team to be arena football. I don't think you can get an arena.
Yeah, how many pickup arena football leagues are there?
But there's a new arena football team in Worcester, the Massachusetts Pirates, and the boys were excited because last night, like channel flipping, in between the Bruins game. I was watching the Bruins game. There was commercials for the Mass Pirates, on that. So they were really excited. So now it's legitimate. Now that they've seen a commercial for the team. But I'm sitting around the room, and just a couple of the oldest jokes I have, came out. Like it was a whole staff meeting. There was like 20 people there, and they were talking about gear, and they were late getting gear. And the coach is like, I can't cut guys until I see a couple practices and gears. People look completely different, in uniform, than running the drills without them. And I'm like, yeah, it's like the Montreal Canadiens and the Titanic. And I can feel everybody looking at me. I'm like, well, they both look great till they hit the ice. And there's that half a second of, okay, I think that's really funny, but I don't know this guy well enough to know if he's and there was, all this, and then everybody just, and then I was riffing on some.
That's a good icebreaker.
Oh, see what he did. Yeah, well, I want to crack the tension a little bit. You got one?
Did you drown?
I'm king of the world. And it's funny. It's the same thing. When I got to Doha a few years ago, I didn't know anybody except one person I had corresponded with who runs the hockey league there, and there was a pickup. And we had corresponded maybe a half a dozen times. It seemed like a really nice guy. Met him before the game. A few years older than me. His son plays in the league. He's a teacher at a Canadian college that's there. Anyways, in the locker room, he's dressing on the other side, and I got dressed, and the long hair and stuff like that. I looked up. I had my jersey on, which was a Charlestown Chief jersey, and I have these old sunglasses with the sunglasses out, but they're thick sunglasses with tape in the middle. And I yelled to him, and I look up, and I'm putting tinfoil on my hands. It's something out of Slapshot, and I say, Dave, do you have any tape? And he's the only name I know, and everybody, as he goes to pass me the tape, he realizes what I'm doing, and he dies, and everybody looks over, and all the team is, the guys are from Finland and Sweden and all over, but Slapshot is internationally, I have more friends pulling that old gag. And then, over the next, couple of years, it was nothing but the FNH jokes. I didn't come up with one new piece of material. So I don't need any new jokes. I just have to change up my circle of friends every couple of years.
And that is locker room talk.
Yeah. And then I said, anyways, so that's my thing. Now we're getting to the fun stuff.
Okay.
You followed the what happened in Austin in the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, obviously the bomber.
Yeah, thank God it wasn't a terrorism though. Right,
exactly. Did you see the memes going around where it's the Family Guy meme?
No.
There's a scene from Family Guy Make sure you get that louder next time. There's a scene from Family Guy in which Peter is dressed in like African garb, but he's driving and he gets pulled over. And then the cop holds up a card with like 6 colors, like ranging from like light skin to dark skin. The light skin portion says mentally ill. The dark skin portion says terrorist. So like there's a lot of that going around with this kid. Like, oh, he's not a darky. He's obviously mentally ill. And that's not unfounded because the Austin police chief basically said like this was a troubled kid who had a promising future or whatever. He was a nerdy kid or whatever. But he was everything but terrorist. Like because he wasn't part of ISIS, because he wasn't brown. He's mentally ill. And it just, meanwhile, in another part of the country, an unarmed black man gets shot 20 times for having a cell phone on him.
And but
he was vandalizing cars, though.
Yeah, he was in his own backyard.
Well, I think, I don't know. It's muddy about whether or not he was actually doing the vandalizing, and maybe he was a suspect. But regardless, the fact that law enforcement can still and probably for the next ever can just unload rounds of ammunition on an unarmed black guy on suspicion that he may or may not have a gun.
Well, I mean, in that part of the country, vandalism is a capital offense.
Sacramento,
yeah. So, and they didn't identify themselves. But staying on the Austin kid for a second, and how did the Austin bomber meet his demise?
Funnily enough, with his own bomb.
So a suicide bomb. But
you know what's funny about that? He was tipped off. The reason why he left his house and was in his car, they accidentally called the paramedics to his house. Like they tried to call, like there was an accidental 911 dispatcher that sent paramedics out, but then they frantically tried to bring him back because they were about to raid his house. So they paramedics arrived before the law enforcement could. Saying they were responding to a 911 call. He said there is no 911 emergency. They left, and so did he. And that's when they pursued him in his car.
And I mean, to make the bombs that he did, and that's not the funny thing. It's not the funny thing.
The odd thing?
No military training. Didn't have a degree in science or engineering or any kind of thing like this.
But he was nerdy, don't forget.
Right. But that's it. And how many bombs total was it? Was it like 8 or 9?
Right. I mean, he had they were all targeting, maybe not targeting, but they were all shipped to predominantly darker people, maybe well-to-do,
but no racism.
No, except for the tripwire. That was equal opportunity.
Right.
Like that was free for all. That was like his. I can't be racist. I set up a tripwire for anybody.
And it is. It always gets back to the same thing. It's like I don't remember them saying the Vegas guy was an act of terrorism. Which I mean, but in something like this where you're trying to inflict terror as much as damage.
I think it's because terrorism is defined as inflicting harm in order to further a political goal. Because this wasn't tied to anything political, it was just essentially a nutty guy. They're not deeming it as terrorism, which, okay, fine. But maybe that definition should be changed. I don't know.
And this guy was a white Christian, as I recall.
I believe so.
Or raised a white Christian.
Yeah, he's a white guy who's a Christian and a self-described psychopath.
Now, why haven't we started questioning the people at his church, the elders at his church or the pastor? Where did he become radicalized?
I know. I probably at birth.
Because it's one of those things. If this was a brown kid, they would be talking to the imam at the mosque. They would want to know, where these, is it online? Did he find this out? Or are you preaching this in the church, or the mosque? And again, I know it's the same thing all over again, but it's like he's not a terrorist and they're not questioning his parents or, and where did he come from? So what wall could you have built that would have prevented this from happening?
Yeah, right. I know. I get it. Oh, I get it.
So another homegrown white Christian person who's not a terrorist just inflicts terror across the city and a nation by planting a series of bombs over a few weeks.
Yep. So I don't know. Maybe that says something about non-white people. Like, hey, man, maybe maybe you got to step up your game if you're going to be more.
Yeah, exactly. The bombs in your court now.
Yeah, I mean, but this is an awful thing, and it's just another example.
But in the same news cycle, like you said, here's a guy in Sacramento, and what I had heard, had a cell phone in his hand, was at his own house. The police didn't identify themselves and lit him up like a Christmas tree.
Yep, and then after he was taken down, they muted their microphones for 5 minutes.
Gee, that's really an interesting thing.
Well, it's actually legal for them to mute their microphones when they're discussing things with a supervisor.
Well, and again, our friend of the podcast, Mr. Taylor, who's done, unfortunately, very well in the world for himself at the hands of wrongful death by different law enforcement agencies. And it's amazing. I remember like this one case he had where there was 16 officers involved in an incident, and like when their supervisor got there, they huddled up for an hour. And it's like, now if this was the other way around, they would have kept everybody in the shooting involved in a shooting separated, so they couldn't get their story straight. And the sad thing is, the reason he did so well in this case is even though they had enough time to talk before what do you call it? Internal Affairs got there and started questioning them. They had over an hour. They still couldn't get their story straight. And through testimony, Cop 1 contradicted what Cop 2 said, who contradicted what Cop 3 said, who, you go right down the line. But yeah, the fact that these body cam things and these dashboard videos have brought to the public eye what a lot of people have been saying for decades, that hey, this goes on. This is what it's like to get pulled over and be black. This is what it's like to have an expired plate in the wrong skin tone in the wrong town versus me when I got pulled over 6 months ago. I told you I didn't come to a full stop. I did a rolling stop at a stop sign, and the cop pulled me over. And, I made a joke about, stop signs with the white borders, they're stoptionals, and he was laughing, and we got, that's not happening if I wasn't, pasty, But anyways, let's, so now that we got all that, unless you got anything, Thursday, how was your Thursday, Joe?
Well, let's see. It was, kind of uneventful because we were expecting a major snowstorm here. Didn't happen.
But
I'm not here to talk about the weather or the lack thereof. We're here to depress you even further with more goings on in what used to be known as the White House.
What? So I did, because I'm not smart and I had to write them down. On Thursday, each and any one of these things would be an entire cycle. And one of the one that I put first on the list got completely lost in the cycle. The Twitter battle between Joe Biden and PLOTUS.
Right. I mean, if Trump wants to pay for that wall, just sell tickets to a Trump versus Biden showdown, and you will raise the funds. Because, man, I think everybody in America and the world would pay to see that fight.
Honestly, let's break. Oh, see, this is the kind of stuff we need Jim for, because Jim's the fight guy, and to break this one down. I mean, PLOTUS probably has the size and the reach.
Uh-huh.
Biden, though,
I don't know. Biden's a tall guy.
Is he as tall?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't have a.
I mean,
doubt.
his tie is shorter than Trump's.
That's true,
right?
But he, how long do you think the fight would go? I don't see it going past 3 rounds.
No, I mean, no, I don't, because I think once Trump runs out of the ring, he's counted out after 10 seconds.
Right.
So,
okay.
That's pretty much the end of the fight. I mean, we're talking about. Well, Joe Biden said something very flippant and very, very direct toward the president, saying that this is the kind of stuff where he would take this kind of person aside and smack him around a bit, or I'm paraphrasing,
right?
Yeah, that he would beat up, and then it got back to Trump, and this is something that he had said a while ago, and it just had resurfaced recently, but then it got back to Trump, and Trump decided to waken wake and bake. I don't know. I'm trying to think of the wake and tweet.
The wake and bake.
Yeah, the wake and tweet where he goes on that Twitter rant about how Joe Biden shouldn't bully people.
It's just and again, people forget, and I mean this in all seriousness. Like Joe Biden is a gold star parent. Like he's another one that you just can't be saying awful things about everybody all the time.
Oh, but you can, and he does.
So that's how the day started. That's how the day started. But then as the wee hours of the morning turned to the mid hours of the morning, you find out that the head of his legal team said, "Yeah, fuck that, I'm out of here." Wasn't fired. Was flat out like, "Yeah, I can't rep this guy anymore. He's just too batshit crazy. I'm done. Goodbye." And it was it's hysterical because Blotus has a history of not paying lawyers, and he also has had trouble getting top-notch legal people to come on his team.
How is that possible? He hires the best people.
Only the best people who will say yes to the job and be okay with me maybe or maybe not paying him.
Right, exactly. Yeah, accepting contracts that don't have my signature on them.
So he does. He loses. So the whole thing with Biden would have been a whole day. I mean, it would have started at like the wee hours, the morning Joes, and gone through to the the Rachel Maddows through the night. But because then you get his.
That was 6 a.m.
It was 6 a.m. By 9, his lawyer quits, isn't fired. But if you were confused, if he was going to fire anybody that day. You got that list?
Yep. So he fires H.R. McMaster,
who was quote unquote one of the adults in the room. For months we've been hearing that luckily there's a couple adults in the room that will have him walk things back or maybe not have him say things. And I don't know if it was McMaster who wrote in bold letters, "Do
not congratulate President Putin for his sham victory."
I also think it was McMaster who months earlier wrote, "Don't look directly at the sun during the eclipse."
I think somebody wrote to him, "Don't run for president" one year, and
right,
yeah,
don't let the DACA people stay.
Yeah.
But seriously, he fires him, which again would have been a whole news cycle. Except, oh wait, somebody at the White House and the senior staff got fired. Well, this must be one of those days that end in Y. And then he hires and he announced the hiring in the same tweet because you're going to fire and hire somebody. You got to be efficient. John Bolton, who has everybody saying, "Oh, okay, great."
I celebrate that man's entire catalog.
I give anything if it was Michael Bolton. Like literally, if you told me he got confused and hired Michael Bolton and that we would be subjected to Michael Bolton music on a regular basis, I'd take it.
Oh, yeah.
I'd take
it as a new national anthem.
But what is your favorite Michael Bolton song?
I gotta say all of them. I am the same way. I celebrate that man's entire catalog.
So, and again, I mean, you're going back in 2004. He was up to be the ambassador to the UN,
right?
And he couldn't get past the Congress or the Senate, which was interesting because they had a majority. Like they had, I don't know if it was over 60%, but they could have got him in easily. And they got turned down. And he was a recessed appointment. W snuck him in during the recessed appointment. And one of the reasons a lot of people said he can't be ambassador to the UN is he was famously had given a speech just months before saying the top 10 floors of the UN are completely wasted. And if, they went away, no one would care.
Yeah, right. There would be no United Nations without the power of the United States, and that the United States' one and only concern should be the welfare and well-being of the United States. End of list.
And then this is a guy who has more often. Well, he was one of the architects of the war that still rages on. List
15th year anniversary, by the way.
Happy anniversary, Joe.
Oh, happy anniversary! I forgot. I meant to give you something to commemorate the occasion, but I didn't have a dead Iraqi on.
So your younger son has, as mine, they in their entire lifespan, the U.S. has been in war with these, two Muslim countries.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now let's be honest, about 4 or 5 Muslim
But
countries.
hey, some of them are puppet governments.
Yeah, no, that's true. Let's congratulate them on their election wins. But Bolton is a guy who is very much against the Iran deal, and he's publicly has lobbied publicly for years about a preemptive nuclear strike in North Korea. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This is a guy who is now going to be telling unhinged, bloaters, go with your gut on this one.
And by the way, did you see that how John Bolton reacted to the news on Fox News? Because he's a Fox News contributor.
Yeah.
He was dumbfounded. He was like, "Yeah, well, I've yet to accept the appointment. I don't know how to, quite comment on getting the new job because I'm still a Fox contributor." But yeah, he didn't even know that he was hired.
Well, because the tweet went out. It's just like last week, Rex Tillerson finding out like everybody else via Twitter after he had been fired and stuff like that. And look, I didn't get a chance to put together the list, and I'm not kidding when I say this. And maybe I'll put it together by next week. There is literally over half a dozen people hired in the last year, or actually the last several months by bloaters who are Fox correspondents and contributors.
It's crazy how the government's turning into Fox News, former Fox News people.
Fox News used to be the propaganda wing of the Republican Party. And, that's something that Bernie Sanders was saying during his election. I remember he was on Rachel Maddow this couple months before, he didn't win the primary.
Speaking of propaganda wings.
And he wishes, if he could do one thing, he would have a Fox News channel for the other side.
That's what MSNBC's trying real hard to be.
Because they actually have people on and conservatives, and they have other points of view, and they don't yell over them or scream over them or sandbag them.
Well, that's what they said. That's what I mean. They're trying to be, but they really need to try harder.
They need to be trying. I wish they would.
Really?
No.
I mean, come on. Let's be honest.
But it would be nice to have like the brainwashed masses numbers, like the absolute. But that it is scary. So. It's now gone from that and Fox News. Well, but remember, like Bloatus, when he was running, he had battles with Fox News. But as soon as he became the nominee, they all fell into line. And now it goes completely the other way. It used to be he would say something, and then they would defend it. Like he would say something batshit crazy, and they would either say, well, this is what he really meant, or, well, X, Y, and Z, and this is why it's okay he said it. And they would either, champion it or apologize, for you not understanding what he was trying to say. Now it's gone the other way.
And then Roger Ailes died.
Right.
Oh, he was fired, and then he died. And now there's a whole new guard at Fox News.
But the scary thing is you used to see, even when this started, or during the campaign, bloaters would say something and then they would champion it. Mm-hmm. Now it's funny because they'll say something and a half hour later he's tweeting it. It is, instead of getting a news from an advisor, he truly is getting Fox isn't getting their talking points from the GOP anymore. The GOP is getting its talking points from Fox News.
Yep. Great.
And if you want a job in the White House, you just got to get a job as a talking head correspondent on that. But that was all just Thursday. And I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's one more thing.
And then one more thing. So this is the third time we were going to have a government shutdown in the last 6 months. Mm-hmm. And each and every time it's a fucking game show with him. Oh, well, you got to pass this bill. And then when it gets passed to the House and Senate, I'm not sure if I'm going to sign it. So on Thursday, he played the whole, well, I'm probably going to veto it, but I'll decide tomorrow. It's like he is writing the cliffhanger for Knots Landing.
Yeah, right. We just need the maudlin organ player in the background for his soap opera. Yeah, it's pretty gross. But then, of course, when he signs it, he goes, he slams the bill for not having enough money or not having any money for DACA. Which again, yeah. They didn't solve the problem I created. And not enough money for the wall, but I'll sign it anyway. But I'm never going to sign a bill like this again.
But that's the thing. That was all on Thursday, and the whole game show thing of it. What's great, which came out Friday, because nobody read it. I mean, my problem with all of these bills, my problem with the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act was delivered to senators in the wee hours of the night and was voted on 5 hours later. I don't care if you are the greatest, most prolific reader in the history of the world. You can't read and comprehend 1,000 pages in a few hours.
Right.
This was a 2,000-page document. Now, most of the time, they hide little...
They're like little pork barreling stuff.
Like, there was a 5-page... Did I? Oh, there we go. There was a 5-page more funding for Russian sanctions. And nobody is taking credit for having snuck it in there. But there's a 5-page part in the middle of these 2,000 pages, which passed through the House, which passed through the Senate, which it passed, which blowed a sign that appropriates more money from combating Russian tampering, which has more sanctions, on Russia that he didn't realize he signed into law. Like nobody pointed that out.
Oh,
to
no,
him.
then he better enact that. He better enact those sanctions now that he signed it into law.
Well,
like he did last time.
Well, and isn't that great? Like his last official public address, Rex gave before getting fired was, "Yeah, we're siding with the UK on it," and then he gets fired. Same thing, McMaster's. But anyways, so all these things. Here are 6 major things that would have been an entire week of news cycles all in one fucking day. And a lot of people think, hey, I wonder how much of that is because the girl from Playboy, the model from Playboy, had her sit down one-on-one interview with Anderson Cooper, and he was just, is that really a possibility that all of this, that he fired the, his chief, advisor because he was trying to distract the news cycle?
No, I think it's just a happy coincidence. Although I have to think that because I can't imagine that he would, on a whim, just start firing people to distract the media and distract the rest of the country from unfavorable reports about him and the people around him.
You don't think he's that fucked up?
I kind of do, but I can't. Something inside me says no. I don't think he's that together. Let me just put it that way. I know that he's fucked up, but I don't know if he's that calculated. I think it's just there's so many things happening at once that yes, maybe it is just I think it's just a coincidence that these things are happening at the same time. But I don't think that there's any sort of calculated effort. Although maybe the only way that could be feasible is that if he has people in mind, like does he have a checklist, like a hit list somewhere, like these are the people that I'm going to eventually fire, but I'm just waiting for the right time to do it.
I think so, and unfortunately, everybody he's hiring is now a kiss up, and so the Kelly thing, the chief of staff, who is he the next to go topic of conversation? Now Bloatis has floated out there. It's like, why do I need a chief of staff? That he wants to do the job himself.
He wants to do all the jobs himself. Like he doesn't need he's his own national security advisor. He's his own secretary of state. He's his own ambassador to the world. He's his own boss. And
so that's interesting. So what, like you were saying, as we record this, we are 27 hours away from the Stormy Daniels 60-minute thing. So if something happens if something happens tomorrow morning, something stupid, middle of the afternoon, he fires Kelly. Or he fires a missile or something like that, which I wish was just funny. But I did want to put this on the list not all the bad politicians out there are Republican. I mean, there are no good Republican politicians, but there are some bad Democrats. Joe, were you aware that the Jews controlled the weather?
Duh.
And luckily, now that I think his name is Trayon White, a councilman from D.C. last week, went well out on a limb to point out that all these storms are being created. And look, I believe it. I just haven't figured out how the Jews are making money from me being snowed in without electricity for 2 days a couple weeks ago. It's like the South Park underwear gnomes. First you get the underwear. Step 2, ? Equals profits. So I'm sure that they do control the weather. Granted, we all understand that. We just have to figure out how they turned me being snowed in with my awful children with no power for 2 days into a windfall.
Well, obviously the Jewish people run Big Plow.
Oh, right.
See?
Yep. Okay. So,
Or Big Salt.
well, see, now I'll have to ask, is my brother-in-law, he's a street, he has
Street performer?
he's put on quite a few performances. I'll say that some of them have been out in the street, but yeah, I mean, when he said that, everyone's like, wait, what?
But he's a street what? What did you? I cut you off. What were you going to say?
No, but he has a landscaping business, but a good 4 months of the year here there ain't much landscaping, so he put
You would
a
think
couple
like
plows.
if the Jews controlled the weather, there would be more Jewish weather consultants for all of these outdoor landscaping companies. Like,
exactly.
Let me check with my Jew to see if there's going to be any weather.
So just so we are fair and balanced, when a Democrat says anything so galactically racist, anti-Semitic, or stupid, we'll point that out as well.
Yeah, and if they go far enough, we'll drum them out of the Senate.
Right? No, we won't. We'll make him president.
No. Remember with Al Franken and
yeah,
but he was Jewish. Oh, I don't. They're blowing your mind. They can control the weather, but not the Senate.
So and let's not get into this much because we'll see if it even happens. But the new appointee for CIA, it's a little bit ambivalent right now. I don't know if that's the right word. Ambiguous. Whether or not there is international warrants out for her arrest for war crimes because she ran a black. Gina Hespel. She is the nominee for the new for the CIA, and she ran I think it was in Taiwan, Thailand. She ran a black ops off the books torture U.S. A U.S. facility,
okay. And
it's whether now and I think it was like people in Germany were saying, well, she can't come to Europe because there's a war crimes tribunal awaiting to happen. So whether that are you looking that up now? Which
no, I'm checking my Twitter. You were saying,
but anyways, on that happy note. Are we?
Wait, why are we bringing these topics up and not commenting on them?
Okay, no.
But I don't know what to say about this. Yeah, so there's a possible head CIA nominee who may have committed war crimes.
Right, and that's the kind of people we're promoting to the like she would be the Betsy DeVos of the CIA. Well, no, I'm not. That's not a fair comparison because Betsy DeVos isn't good at what she does, but this woman might be one of the best, like black ops torture facility managers ever.
She was the director of the National Clandestine Service when Obama was in office for a couple of months. February 28th, 2013 to May 7th, 2013. And yeah, she was I don't know. I'm just reading her Wikipedia entry and it's pretty, I don't know, pretty all over the place. Attracted controversy for her role as a chief of a CIA black site in Thailand in 2002, in which prisoners were tortured. The ACLU has accused her of being a war criminal. Okay, all right. So what do we want to do about it? Do we want to march or do we want to hashtag? What do we do? I got time.
We want to go to the defunct sponsor of the week.
Okay.
March.
I was overweight and looked terrible, but AIDS helped me lose 46 pounds. The AIDS diet plan helped me lose 28 pounds.
AIDS helps control your appetite so you lose weight. Yet AIDS lets you taste, chew, and enjoy. And the appetite suppressant in AIDS is not a stimulant.
AIDS helped me to lose 18 pounds, and it doesn't contain anything to make me nervous.
Question: why take diet pills when you can enjoy AIDS? AIDS helps you lose weight without making you jittery.
So again, where this is a one man's quest to prove that I'm not a misogynistic pig, I'm using this to make up for all the horrible things I say. I would drag Joe in it too, but he doesn't tell misogynistic, awful jokes all the time. Like, what do most housewives say when they're having sex?
What?
The ceiling needs painting. What's the difference between your wife and a job?
Huh?
Your job still sucks after 2 years.
Go.
All right. So anyways, now that I've just, and look, I don't feel that way, of course. I'm just pointing out that some people make misogynistic jokes like that. But where it's March.
What kind of misogynistic jokes? Like what?
Stop. Don't, oh man. So it's like if you're trying to sit down and watch a game and she keeps coming into the kitchen to nag you about something, what did you really do wrong? You made the leash too long. Anyways. But where it is March, it is Women's History Month, and we are a show that likes to talk yucks now and then. And each week we've pointed out a favorite female comedic personality. This week I present to you one. Julia Louis-Dreyfus. That is a fantastic. He just showed me a picture of her having the Constitution tattooed on her back.
Yeah, and it's being signed by John Hancock. And she's the famous Rolling Stone one that came out a couple of years ago, where she's nude, but it's very provocative and very easy on the eyes and funny.
She is a fantastic, funny person, and because because of your age, Joe, she's not been on a major show.
Yep.
In your lifetime.
Yep. She started out for the most part on Saturday Night Live.
81.
No, 85.
Yeah, was that? Okay.
That was
all right.
Her season was the Robert Downey Jr. No, wait, it wasn't the Robert Downey Jr. She was maybe earlier.
No, 82. She was Seinfeld 82.
Oh, right, because she was on with the Harry Shearer.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And so she was on that for a few years, which that met her husband, on the show at the time. But she went not right from that, but she did a bunch of other shows here and there, bit characters, before Seinfeld for the number one show for it lasted 9 years.
Yeah.
And 8 of those 9 years, it was the number one show on television. Mm-hmm. And you might think I'm kidding when I say this. My favorite Julia Louis-Dreyfus vehicle, management and I were huge fans of the New Adventures of Old Christine. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Greg Clark was on that show, who goes on to be Coulson. Wanda Sykes was on that show. I'm not a huge fan of her like stand up, but she was great on that show. It is the wife and I absolutely loved that show. I don't have HBO, but I've heard nothing but amazing things. And every time you see clips from Veep.
Yeah. And let us not forget her role in the 1989 classic National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. She was the yuppie next door neighbor. Do you remember that?
I do. And that is your favorite of the Lampoon. It's in your top 10 movies.
I don't know about top 10. I mean, top 10 comedies? Yeah, maybe.
Do you have any movies in your top 10 that aren't comedies?
You're right. Sorry, Star Wars. You're somewhere in the 30s.
No, I will punch you in the balls. If I knew which jar your wife hit your balls in, I would take it off the shelf and hit them.
Something. I won't tell.
But yeah, I mean, even she does appearances on a lot of other shows. I think she did a Amy Schumer show like last year, and it was a really great. I think Amy Schumer was going for a hike, and she stumbled upon a party of all these like famous actor women's in the woods, and they were celebrating Julia Louis-Dreyfus' last fuckable day.
That's the name of the episode, Last Fuckable Day.
Oh, and it's great. And she's like, wait, you're still beautiful and hot. Yes, but at this point, I won't get a role based on being fuckable. I get a role on being somebody's like, mom or, like this stuff. But I won't get another role because I walk in the room and a producer will say, oh, yeah, she's fuckable. And they were celebrating, that she had passed that point in her career.
Wow.
It was, but she's really, really funny. She has.
I mean, she must have FU money.
Oh, God, yeah.
I mean, I don't know she just likes to act, I guess. Like, that's why she's still
That's
working.
what she does.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody like that, because like I said, so 82, so 92, so 35 plus years. Mm-hmm. And we're talking, it's only a couple years between, Saturday Night Live and Seinfeld. And it's only a couple years between Seinfeld and New Adventure. I think it lasted 3 or 4 seasons. And then it was only a few years between that and Veep.
Yep.
And it's not like in those off years she was sitting around waiting for the phone to ring. she was constantly popping up on other shows. And like you said, like, bit parts in movies and stuff like that and here and there. So she's not been out of work and not out of the public eye in 35 years. So yeah, she more than has enough fuck you money. And we were talking about it earlier. I guess Joe Biden was a huge, huge fan of Veep.
Okay.
So
Of course. Well, he was.
that's exactly. So no, and it's great.
But what's great about Veep is that it's sort of like what if Sarah Palin had become president.
Right.
Eventually she becomes the president. Spoilers.
What?
Yeah. Shocker. But you know what? I have HBO. I've only watched a few episodes of Veep because I'm just a bad person.
Pretty much, yeah. Agreed,
I'm a really, really bad person and a fool.
She met her husband. No, I think she met her husband at Northwestern University.
Okay.
And where her son plays on the Northwestern University basketball team now.
They met so they were just coincidentally both hired at Saturday
And
Night.
I don't know if one got the job and brought the other on board or vice versa, but I think that's what happened. Okay. Or maybe they went to the same university, but either way, just focusing on her and her career.
Right.
Liz,
no, let's make it about the man in her life.
Liz, exactly.
And all the contributions that he made.
Yeah. Tina Fey, I said Liz Lemon. Tina Fey said Julia Louis-Dreyfus was one of the inspirations behind the character Liz Lemon.
Yep.
So, and again,
And I guess she played Liz Lemon in an episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why she had her. And look, and that's all the female comedians we've talked about. It's the legacy that they've left behind. It's the doors that they've opened to the roles. And then Julia Louis-Dreyfus has famously said, a number of times that, she applauds like the women like herself who will make themselves look stupid in the name of comedy. Aren't afraid of being the butt or the joke. Aren't afraid of, they don't always have to be the hip together, cool one. That she's not afraid of. And of course, there's a lot of things like on Seinfeld where, she was no George, but she didn't always make the right decisions and wasn't afraid of, playing kind of the fool to get the laugh.
I'm reading her Wikipedia entry, and it says when she won her 6th straight Primetime Emmy Award for leading actress in a comedy series, it set a new record for the TV veteran as she surpassed both Candice Bergen and Don Knotts to score the most wins by a performer for the same role in the same show. And I'm just, astounded that Don Knotts had won 6 Emmys for playing Barney Fife. Or was it Mr. Furley?
Dun, dun, dun.
But, her win also tied her with Cloris Leachman as the most Emmy wins by a performer. So... And we probably want to cap it by wishing her the best in her recovery because she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I think undergoing treatment for that. So, but she's still
it's great.
She's not like hanging up saying, "Well, that was a nice career. Had a good run. I'm just going to go bow to cancer now."
And again, she's not waiting for the Seinfeld reboot. She's not waiting for the old Christine reboot.
Right,
she's not waiting.
She's not at those signings,
right.
The has-been signings. Sorry, has-beens. I wish I was a has-been.
Yeah.
I aspire to be a has-been.
From two never wases. We give anything to have been has-beens.
But we salute you, Julia Louis-Dreyfus. So
now, when I did the rundown yesterday and sent it to Joe's approval about we got to the sport section. I wasn't going to have, and maybe I should have mentioned this earlier. The only thing I had on there was either. They mentioned the arena football gig or do a segment on this week in the WHA. But to tie it into Parkland, apparently Robert Kraft had donated his jet to fly a bunch of the Parkland, people up to D.C.
Great, because the Pats need good press right now. They need some really positive press. I mean, no, that's not why he did it at all.
I don't care why he did it. He did it, and it's great. I mean,
stop being so cynical, Joe.
No, it's okay. Look, it's okay to question it, but it's like, if he's doing this, is this a billionaire's way of saying, yeah, NRA or whoever, like Republicans I might have supported in the past or support, I'm for this.
I don't know what to think anymore. I mean, honestly, it's just like his ties with the president. He's a Republican. It's like, okay, we want unity, and yes, we want all this stuff, but I don't know. It's fine. I mean, it's good that
it's good that it happened.
This is a good thing. Yes, it's real good.
We could talk that Gronk's house got broken into, and there was a restaurant. Yeah, exactly. I'm not talking. I'm not going down that. But I will say, and I told Joe I would do this. Any people living in earshot or driving distance or the Worcester Center, the DCU Center, who wants free tickets to the Mass Pirates Arena Football inaugural home opener April 7th, they can just tweet at Joe, the show, or myself.
Yeah, just put it on our Facebook page with the subject, really?
But yes, because I did. I took the job as director of game day operations. I don't know who Kid Ink is. I'm supposed to be impressed, but we have somebody named Kid Ink who's doing the opening halftime or the halftime show of the first game. Mm-hmm. But anyways, I'm serious. So that will wrap it up on sports and bring it to my favorite time of the podcast, the random video game review of the week.
God bless us, everyone. This is the part of the show that I hate the most. It means that I have to talk independently for more than 10 seconds, which means also that I have to get up off my fat arse and go over to my wall of Nintendo games, not look at what game I'm going to pull off the wall. Jacques will tell me where to pull it off.
Hashtag me too. You see how some asshole guys have taken that.
Yeah, right. That was your parody. That was your imitation of an asshole
doing it.
Right. So here, without further ado, here's me going over to the wall of my games so that we can have more fun.
I mean, of all the things that upset me about having the broken ankle and having to have it raised while I'm doing this, it's not having the privilege of picking the game. Here he goes. Big money, big money, big money. No whammies, no whammies, and stop.
I'm getting the book.
Oh, I think you picked a good one. I think you picked a good one.
Hold on, let me get my cans on. All right, so it's not Major League Baseball and it's not Mega Man. Ooh, what is it? What do I have that starts with? Is it Marble Madness?
It is Marble Madness.
Yeah! Jacques knows what this game is, right? You have to, right?
I do not.
Oh, this was more popular in the arcade than I think on Nintendo.
Oh, okay.
Marble Madness is, it's the Nintendo version is the port of the very popular arcade game where you would control this rolling marble along many courses. In the arcade, you would use one of those like track balls. So Robert would probably really appreciate this game because I think he's a big trackball fan. But on the Nintendo, you didn't have a trackball adapter. You had to use the controller, so it was a little cumbersome. But you did have the option to either control it using the 90 degrees, like the way that the controller is set up normally, or you could tilt it to 45 degrees and control it that way, which I don't know. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I sucked at it no matter what control I used. But this is it is a difficult game, and it's all about, points and getting to the end as fast as possible. And I never made it past, I think, the third or fourth stage ever. And so this is one of those like kind of 10-minute games. Like you don't sit here for hours playing Marble Madness unless this is like the only game you were given as a child and you weren't allowed to buy any more video games ever. But I think it's a fun port. It's okay. It's got a couple of nice chip tunes to go along with the game. But I think that's enough talk about Marble Madness.
No. When did NES? When did the PlayStation 2 come out?
I think 99.
Okay, so that was
your microphone is yeah. Hello, good
there
morning.
There we go.
Good morning. Righty tighty. There you go.
Lefty loosey.
Yeah. Although that doesn't really adjust the tilt. That's a different mechanism. Anyway,
I'll kill you.
Please don't pull back the fourth wall, Joe. So now I'm going to look up in the Ultimate Nintendo guide, the Ultimate Nintendo, the NES guide to a guide to the NES library. Who fucking cares?
What do you give it for stars?
I'm going to give it 4 stars.
No. Nice.
And I'm going to say...
When do you think the last time it made its way into your NES system?
Not too long ago. Actually, I had a friend over, and we played it on an...
I don't remember being here playing it.
See? And I have an emulator box where you can play, like, stolen arcade games off the internet. And I also have a controller that's set up like an arcade joystick. It's called the X-Arcade Tank controller. I forget what the fuck they call it. But it has a trackball on it. So we were playing the Marble Madness arcade version with the trackball and everything, and it was a very authentic experience in the comfort of my own living room.
See,
Yeah?
no, I was going to make a rude joke, but I won't.
Oh, wow. Look at you. You're growing.
No, I can't remember what it was.
Oh, see. Pat Contry, the author of the book, gave the Marble Madness NES game 3.5 stars. So, I was a little too generous maybe with the starring, but whatever. So what does he have to say, you ask? Players take control of an anthropomorphized marble and must roll through isometric 3D courses in this unique racing game. Using the D-pad, players control a blue marble and must complete the different courses in the limited amount of time to move on to the next. What a great cold read, Joe. You should be
you're
an
good
audiobook
at this.
reader. Yeah, I know. How much do I think it goes for on eBay? Who cares? 6 weeks later, it was Wake Up Little Susie.
Actually, I'm a little surprised at what this goes for.
Oh, 99 cents.
$7.72.
Wow,
I'm seeing it as.
Hey,
So that's
a decent video game now. Yeah, they're these old Nintendo games are becoming harder and harder to find, or people are hoarding them and artificially inflating the prices for them on eBay. So whatever.
And moving on to what have you watched this week?
My figure.
If you don't watch your figure, no one else will.
I tried watching Humanity, and I fell asleep during it because it was really late. And I got through the first part where he was talking about Caitlyn Jenner and Bruce Jenner, and okay. And then he started doing the chimp routine where he was equating himself to like transitioning into full-on chimp. I thought it was a little hack, and I thought it was a little ham-fisted. I didn't kind of dig it. I was like, okay, old man, next. What was that like? I it wasn't funny for me, but it wasn't unfunny. Right. It just, to me, it was like, okay, a little low-hanging fruit kind of shit.
No, a lot of it. And I like how he goes the other way instead of being self-deprecating. Tells you why he's so great and why he's so rich.
Yeah, so I fell asleep during the chimp transitioning. But the only reason I kind of bristled at that one, because it's like, isn't the whole argument that we don't want Republicans shaming trans people by saying, oh, what's the next step? You're going to transition into an animal kind of thing, So that only because this bit reminded me of that conversation, okay. I was like, okay, I know he's making fun of it, and I know it's a joke, and I know it's being sarcastic, but it's just like I couldn't take myself out of I couldn't take myself out of it, like, oh, this might not be funny for everybody. Fuck him.
Well, that's what one of the things I did like is when but you got to the thing where he was talking about the people torturing the dog and he called them cunts.
No.
Okay.
I stopped right there.
So Joe had suggested, that was my suggestion last week, and you had suggested Drunk, Stoned, Brilliant, Dead, the National Lampoon documentary, which I watched. Fantastic suggestion.
Yeah, I think it was really good. I think they got the other surviving founder, or they got the surviving co-founder of the National Lampoon. I can't think of his name. He's the other guy, not Doug Kenny. The other guy.
Didn't fall off.
Yeah, the other.
Or jump. Yeah, it's
up there.
Cherry got pretty emotional when he was talking about that.
I know.
It was interesting to see. I love the archival footage. I like what was funny about the docudrama was all the recreation, and they must have seen that archival footage, because now that I'm thinking back on it, when they had Gilder on the far right, when they were actually recording, they had everybody standing
almost lined up identically to the same way that the archived footage had it.
And it was great seeing that skit about like the football team that all has the diseases, and Harold Ramis is the coach,
right? And then of course you see Bill Murray do the black voice.
As the captain of the defense of the football, I would like to say...
I just want to say something right here. Hold on, Simmons. We got something for you. But you were kind of zeroing in on the radio hour aspect because I never read the Lampoon. It was before my time. By the time I got into
and you don't like boobs.
Hate it. I mean, why? Why,
But it was funny listening to the art director talk about like the different concepts and how people didn't, like when everything was written except those photos that they always had of Doug Kenny and the partner every week,
The photo funnies.
The photo funny, which was great.
Yeah, but then they also talked about its descent after the guy left. Actually, no. After in the early '80s when they decided they didn't know how to compete with the other magazines.
Who was the guy? So I mean, they were bringing new talent. They lost a lot of talent to SNL,
right? And I think they had Mike Reese and Al Jean were.
But by the time that they had a couple years in, like people were still hiring them. At one point, you could get a job writing in television if you wrote on the Lampoon. And they got the phone call, and he goes, the phone rang one day. I'm like, hello. It's like, we want to hire you. Great.
Right.
I'm going to move you to LA. Great. Didn't ask what show. Didn't ask what it was for.
Yep. He just wanted to get out of there because it was just it was kind of a toxic environment to work
at one
in.
point. But the documentary is great. I love the footage. Good suggestion. This week, it's not, I don't think I'm making it my suggestion, but Joe, I watched a shitload of Blue Bloods this week.
My God.
Well, just one day. One day, I watched about 12 hours.
Okay, so that is a shitload, regardless. Yeah, I mean that you're venturing into my wife's territory because she watches like NCIS New Orleans and Bones, and they're shows that are hits. Don't get me wrong, and they are decent shows. Like they're hits for a reason, but they're just not
because there's old shut-ins.
Yeah. Right, so you're a young old shut-in.
Well, yes, I am because I spent like the last 4 days after the doctor's appointment on Tuesday. I got dropped off, went to my parents' house, and for close to 96 hours, other than getting up out of the big Barker lounger, when I could keep my foot raised and making the 12-foot incredulous journey to the bathroom. I didn't move off because the doctor was like, your foot's healing, bones are in the right place, but it's too swollen. Stay the fuck off your foot. And I got a busy day Monday, and this is the only time I've left the house, honestly, in 5 days. But one day, I'm like, yeah, I had enough news and MSNBC and all this stuff, and I was getting a lot of work done. And so I hit just whatever. I hit a button and Ion Television. Yep. I guess he had a marathon. And I'm like, yeah, I'll just watch this. Honest to God, it was background noise. I had it on mute half the time if I had to focus on sending an email, if I was on a conference call. And there was 2 or 3 times I had to kind of rewind. I'm like, is this the same episode? Like I literally couldn't. Is it one really long episode, or is it different episodes? It's like
that mustache of Selleck's hypnotizes you.
I didn't. I could have watched the first 5 minutes of any episode and written the whole thing. But it's funny, like, management kept calling, and every time she would call, I would just pick up the phone and scream, I'm watching Blue Bloods. What do you want? And she's like, still? I'm like, yes. Why? I don't know.
I lost the remote.
And I honestly, I knew nothing about the show.
I think your mother-in-law, by the way, said he's pathetic.
Yeah, exactly. But well played. I didn't know Donnie Wahlberg was on the show, and he's plays like that cop that walks a line that wants to beat confessions out of people, but that's not how his dad would do it. Who's his boss? Who's the Jets?
Yeah. All right.
Blue Bloods.
Blue Bloods.
You got anything to watch this week? Any suggestions?
Non-pornographic. What I'm going to watch that story. Well, speaking of pornographic, I am going to watch that Stormy Daniels interview when it airs eventually, because we're in the middle of March Madness and it's on CBS. So
right.
It could be 8:00 or whenever when it comes on. But we'll catch up with that. I don't know what else am I. Nothing worth mentioning. Nothing that I want to reveal to the public.
So you got a parenting tip of the week to end this happy.
I never have a parenting tip for the week because I am a bad parent.
No, you're not.
Yes. Yes, the first step to healing is admitting you have a problem. I'm a bad father. I'm like Jim Carrey's in Liar Liar. Yeah, have you seen Liar Liar?
Yeah, have I seen Liar Liar?
I'm a bad father. I mean, and he couldn't,
when he couldn't tell the truth.
And he was. Yeah, that's me.
Which for a lawyer, not.
I'm not the lawyer part. For me, yeah. I am not a lawyer or a multi-million-dollar comedian or a great painter. I'm a bad
A
parent.
great painter. Interesting that didn't make it onto the list.
What?
A great painting. Like Jim Carrey's been in the news for his paintings.
Oh,
this
right,
week.
right. Yeah, I mean, there's so much in the news cycle. We can't possibly cover it all in one podcast, nor should we.
All right.
But what's your parenting tip? Please end this thing.
So that's my parenting tip of the week. Please end this thing. No, because the boys did do their I believe civic duty of getting out there, having their voices heard, making signs, taking part and making your voice heard. The oldest one is 8 years away from voting, but it doesn't hurt to get out there. Plus, I haven't told them this yet, and I will probably don't know if I'll ever tell them this. Hippie chicks seem to put out a lot more.
Boy.
My parenting tip to my boys is when people ask why I became vegetarian, I tell them very honestly, I was trying to impress a hippie chick who had fantastic boobs. And that is my parenting tip of the week.
Find a hippie chick. First of all, be a male. Second, be straight. Third, find a hippie chick that has fantastic boobs. And then bend it.
And find out whatever cause that she is rallying behind, and you champion that.
You got an awful lot of swastikas for a hippie chick. All right.
Anyways, that's our Hitler. That's
our Hitler.
Well, I don't have any more advice, so...
You have any more funny jokes about women?
Oh, I have some. There's that one. Oh, no. Don't forget.